What is up, Facebook land? Welcome to another episode of the Two Dates in a Dash podcast, except this is going to be a little bit different. It's not a charity. I've done a couple charity spotlights. This is going to be an organizational spotlight, meaning there's a group or an organization that I believe has some worthwhile information that they need to share. And this happens to be one that's very close to me that means a lot to me because it's part of my life, swimming. So before I introduce my friends Dan and Dave, I want to first dedicate a show. And I'm going to dedicate the show to every person who's ever swam, anybody who ever dove into a pool and stared at the bottom of a pool for hours on end, doing laps and laps and laps. To understand how difficult that is to stay focused and keep your effort level up and do the complete opposite of what your body wants to do, which is to breathe freely, is one of the hardest things to do. I don't swim. I panic the minute I jump into water and put my face in the water. I don't like the feeling of not being able to breathe. I think that comes from the Gulf War and wearing the gas mask every time a Scud missile was launched at us. But I just don't like that feeling. But I think the fact that, especially if you have an elite swimmer, and the three of us have been very lucky to raise elite swimmers, and I'm not sure how, because none of us are really that athletic. At least I'm not. And Dave, I've seen you work hard. Dan, you were a college swimmer, so I'll give you a little bit of props.
Nice.
But I think it's just really a magnificent sport when you think about what's required to be great. And so my dedication today is to every person that ever swam. As far as the podcast, you can find it anywhere: iTunes, Pocket Cast, Anchor, Stitcher, you name it, you can find it. So the organization I'm going to highlight tonight is the Valley Forge Aquatic Center, which is a conceptual project that is not yet come to fruition, which is kind of why we're having the show tonight. And I'm going to introduce my friend Dan Cook and Dave DiArcangelo here. And they are on the board that's trying to create this aquatic center. And they are local businessmen and swim dads and good friends of mine. So without further ado, Dan and Dave, what's up, guys?
Hey, how are you, Matt?
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having us tonight.
Hey, man. I appreciate you guys being on. I know this isn't your normal. You're not normal podcast guests, so we're gonna pop the cherry here, and we'll see how we do with this. But I'm not gonna make it difficult. It's gonna be very easy. It's gonna be conversational. It's gonna be three dudes talking about swimming and their passion for swimming and how they want to provide a place that is world class for probably not our kids, but generations of kids to come. So I ask one question on every one of my podcasts. Usually it's who is whatever the person's name is. But today we're going to ask, what is the Valley Forge Aquatic Center? What is it? Why was it created? What is it supposed to do? Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Matt, again for having us. We appreciate the time. But just kind of in a nutshell, the Valley Forge Aquatic Center is really a mission and an effort that's been going on for 6 years. And we have been trying to really do research and development of this idea that the area of the Philadelphia region needs a aquatic facility that supports sports across all avenues, which includes obviously swimming, diving, water polo, and synchronized swimming. But today, what we are if you guys ever take a look at our website, it's vfswim.org. We have a very established board currently. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that we got that status at the end of last year. And right now we're currently in the fundraising stage of our project. So, it's been, like I said earlier, it's a 6-year project that we've been working on from the ground up. And right now, it is a conceptual plan, but I feel like we're starting to make some really good headway from where we started, right?
Absolutely. Dan should probably fill you in a little bit on his motivation for why we wanted to do this. And I think he roped a lot of us into this, but Dan really is the one that had the idea, had the notion that, we all recognize the area needed more pool space. And Matt, I know you know that as well as anybody. You've trucked far and wide to pools across, the eastern part of Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and recognized the lack of available pool space that kids can train in and kids can swim in. But Dan's really the one that took that bull by the horns and kind of made that his mission. So
yeah, great, thanks. Yes. So, it really started 6 years ago. I was coaching at the Phoenixville area YMCA, volunteer coach. I had a very close friend named Luis Gayoso, who is very well known in our area as a coach, as a mentor. He's impacted my children, impacted Dave's children, many children in this area. But he was very passionate. He was a national swimmer. He was actually from Peru. And, him and I spent many hours talking about building a really serious program here where we can produce, Olympians and Olympic trial cut qualifiers here in our area. To make a long story short, during this time, Luis passed away at 36 years old. He was a very successful businessman, had a very good financial planning business. And I don't know. I mean, Dave and I both knew him. We both at his funeral. He was part of our life because of how much he impacted our children. But it kind of threw me forward because it was kind of a tough part of my a really hard time in my life and my family's life. And I really kind of started focusing when I was coaching. I was like, okay, we got to keep this mission going. And I was coaching like 1 hour practice, 2-3 days a week. And parents were starting asking me like, hey, can you get us more pool time so these kids can have more time? And I was like, great. So I was trying to get 2 hours versus 1 hour at Phoenixville. And, the YMCA was very crowded and it's just, time constraint, large team. But I started looking around for pool space. And to make a really long story short, I ended up over at the Valley Forge University, which was the Christian college at the time. We found actually that the old War College over there had an old natatorium that was, 33 yards long, if I recall, and it needed a lot of work. And basically at that time, they were using it as a storage for computer boxes, all kinds of stuff was in this empty pool pretty much. So that's initially when we first engaged with our architect, whose name is Dan Harrigan, and he's the president of Spillman Farmer Architects out of the Lehigh Valley. And he kind of held our hand through this process over the last 6 years. He's done an excellent job, and everything you see on our website, we can, he's done it all pro bono for us, and he's been awesome. So what we did with Dan and working with a pool company, we went and looked at this pool, and we kind of started looking at, different altercations of really 3 or 4 different ways. If we just rehab the pool, it would have cost us $1 million. If we would have added a lane, it would have cost us $3 million. If we would have, put more seatings on it, expanded it to like 8 lanes versus 6 lanes, it got up to like $5 million. And then we were like, hey, how much does it cost for us just to build a long course pool, level it, and just put like a good structure together? And it came out to about $5 million. So you could do a $4 to $5 million project. Then as we started talking to people, and people were like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. And that includes not just the community, but other aspects of the aquatic sport: water polo, synchronized swimming, diving, and obviously swimming. So we really then at that point got serious about it. And we had some people come and go on the board, and some people thought I was kind of crazy to even take that on at that point, but we did. And I did at that time recruit a lot of good people, and Dave was one of the first people. We were sitting at a Princeton meet where our kids were swimming that day, and I started telling you about the project. And at the time I was going down trying to pull out how much it cost to run the Princeton University Aquatic Center over there in Princeton. And, we started getting some traction, started getting some interest. What we then did is, at the time it was called the Philadelphia Aquatic Center. We raised money and we went out and hired a company. We interviewed a few different companies to do a feasibility study. Is this really realistic to do in Philadelphia? Is there really an actual need in Philadelphia? So it kind of came down to 2 companies, and we actually chose a company called the Isaac Sports Group, run by Stu Isaacs out of Michigan. And his job, what he does is, that's what he does. He goes around the country and he builds aquatic centers and consults with organizations, nonprofits, and kind of helps you kind of build these facilities and kind of structure and build the pro forma models and everything. So we actually raised a portion of money. We all put in a good part of our own personal money to pay for Stu's consultant fees. So Stu came in and actually did a very solid feasibility study, talked to everybody in the community, talked to the school district, talked to the Christian college, and then came back to us probably about a month or 2 later and presented to both the University of Valley Forge and Phoenixville area school district, and said, you guys have a significant need here. He's like, he gave us actually 5 different options of how the pool should look and be designed to really to serve the community here in the Philadelphia area. So really that was really interesting. We were very excited about that. And we kind of narrowed it down. If everybody could look at our website, you could see what our current design is. There's actually option 4. And actually the design came out to be it's going to be actually a 66-meter long course pool, and it'll have 2 movable bulkheads where you can run 2 short course meets and still have that extra 16 meters. You can still have diving or use that as a warm down area. In addition to that, we also have a rehab pool with 3 to 6 lanes, which will be a warm pool as well. We could talk a little bit about that as well. And then also we want to have a seating capacity because, the closest long course facilities that we have are in New Jersey, down in Maryland, out in Lancaster, and it's always a seating capacity area. And I think everybody on this call right now can say you're either sitting in the hall and waiting for your kid to swim, and it's like seating capacity of 500 people. Even high school states at Buck now is only seats I think 500 to 600 people, and it's very difficult to get seats to watch your own kid swim high school states. But nonetheless, we chose that design. We moved forward. We initially had a letter of understanding with the university, and over time, we really developed a relationship with Phoenixville Area School District. And with the Phoenixville Area School District, we actually got very tight and close with Dr. Alan Fagley there. And, through my conversation with him, he said, hey, we actually have a plot of land over at the University of Valley Forge that was given to us when the land was given to them by the federal government. And through various conversations, he's like, we'd love to kind of give that to you. We're not using it. And they only park their buses over there currently, and they use that. They call it the bus depot. So I'm working with him as well as a gentleman named Dan Cushing, who at the time was the current school board president. We had a lot of deep conversations, and it probably took us almost a year to solidify a lease agreement with them. So part of that lease agreement is it's actually a 50-year lease agreement, and we've kind of basically built an amortization schedule in it where they use a certain amount of time, and we kind of back it out and we scale it over a 50-year period of time. With that, they also got 2 additional board seats for our board. So there's 2 Phoenixville Area School District board members. One currently is the president of the school board, and the other one is just a board member. So once that happened in September, there was a lot of media that went out, and we had a news press release, which was exciting. Went out to all the big swim and Swimming World channels. Got a lot of publicity around that. And then really the next thing we did is we self-funded what's called a feasibility study. And we hired a firm out of Philadelphia called Dunleavy Associates. And they went out and did a feasibility study for us as well to say, hey, if you guys are going to raise the money, how are you going to do it? And really gave us some good targets, gave us some good introductions, and gave us, really just some good traction. And kind of at that same time, we also became a 501c3, which I already mentioned. And our current board now consists of a very solid. We have a law to businessmen to entrepreneurs to guys like Dave and I, all kind of being passionate in this swimming community. So anyway, that's a long story short, kind of about how we landed to where we're at today.
No, it was brilliant. Well done, man. I'm not gonna lie, you did a great job. It was concise. It was very linear in its structure, and you did a great job, Dan. Great job.
Thank you, man.
So one thing that, having been in a swim dad now for going on, 14 years, I guess, somewhere around there. I know that back in the day when we all started, the YMCAs were the thing. YMCAs were where every kid went to go swim for the most part. That's, every town had a YMCA, every town had a YMCA swim team. And that's becoming less and less normal. And for lack of a better reason, the YMCA is restructuring its business model to be more fitness center oriented and less community-based, less swim programming, things of that nature, which, everything evolves, everything changes, and it is what it is. But it's created this vacuum, this void where we have very little opportunities for our kids to swim if they're not on a Y swim team and they want to swim on a club team. You got to go to wherever that club has a pool. And a lot of times, like in our case with Tops, we don't have a pool. We have to go swim at half the time at the Hill School, half the time at the Perkiomen School, and even some of it at the old Potsdam Y. So that need, just in the greater Montgomery County, Chester County area that we see a lot of is so immense. And then you think about the amount of, and you touched on it, where the long course pools where the 50 meters are required in order to be qualified if you want to do Olympic trials or whatever the case might be. They're so few and far between. It's almost, a lot of kids don't do long course because of the distance that's required to travel. And I think a lot of kids would really excel at long course if they had the opportunity to do it with a little bit more of a local opportunity. And for me, a lot of people that aren't into swimming, just like I don't know anything about gymnastics or or wrestling or any other sport for that matter, as far as the club level, non-high school sports, but swimming is gigantic in this region. It's comparatively to the Floridas and the Texas and the southern states, Florida, Texas, and California. We're right there, especially in where we live. District 1 is one of the fastest, if not the fastest district in the state of Pennsylvania. So there's a lot of talent that's recruited in our area, all across the country. So having a place where kids can showcase their skills, kids can have an opportunity to compete, kids can have better facilities and better training opportunities to become more elite, I think is real important, don't you?
Absolutely. We've seen that with our kids, Matt, and my motivation was similar to Dan's in that, and I'm going to circle back a little bit about our engagement with the local school district here, Phoenixville School District. But we've all been at that tiny high school pool or that, hot and stuffy and humid YMCA pool and recognize, these sessions run 6 or 7 hours long and we only get to see our kids swim for a minute or two at that time. And so it's cramped. And I think one of the things that we were always hearing from people was like, maybe this area needs a long course pool or this area needs more water. But the motivation to do it was never really there because, kids grow up and they move on and people move on to other projects. And yes, our kids will never see this facility. My kids are one of them is a former swimmer. You're going to have some former swimmers here too soon. Dan, you will as well, as a college graduate in the house. But we're in this for the community, and this is about something that is building for kids in the next generation, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. We see this as a huge shot in the arm for not just competitive swim, but just access to water across a whole host of things. And Dan mentioned synchronized swimming, water polo, diving, but we really see this as coming into like a threefold mission for us. And the big shot in the arm was our engagement with the school district. Once we started working with Dr. Alan Faley at Phoenixville, I think it really helped us stand up this idea that we could do something that's not just for competitive swim, but it's the service to the community that's really vital here. We've got so much water space. We're not in competition with people. We feel like it's an addition to what's already existing out there, offering this water space. And so it really brings it back to what could be something that's a big benefit for the community, because this pool can be open 18 hours a day. How do we utilize that space? And so really we have a threefold mission, Matt. And the first part of that mission is we really want to teach children to swim. We really feel like every young child, whether they go into competitive swim or not later in life, that really doesn't matter at all. But every young child, whether it be kindergarten, first or second grade, they deserve an opportunity to have a lesson program. And that should be provided for them by us in conjunction with local school districts. So we're located in Phoenixville School District, but we don't see why most school districts in greater Chester and Montgomery County that adjoins this can't benefit from this aquatic space. And it would be huge for us to see this. That program that we envision, that's been launched in other cities. Greensboro, North Carolina has done it. Richmond, Virginia has done it. We see no reason why everyone from the western suburbs of Philadelphia down to Westchester and up into Montgomery County can't be availed of that program. And the key is, let's be honest, is drowning is the second leading cause of accidental death for children under the age of 14. And that's particularly acute for minority children that don't have access to water facilities when they're young to learn how to swim and to gain that confidence. And so we look at this as, while competitive swim uses this facility a large portion of the afternoon and evening, as would any athletic facility, whether it's lacrosse fields or what have you. But during the day, this can be utilized by school districts. We have so much water and so many lanes that would be available when we build this facility. And then I'm going to go back. I'm going to actually go to what it really is the third part of our mission, because competitive is a portion of that. But the third part of our mission is this is part of a lifelong fitness. You know, sometimes kids go to a learn to swim program and there's nothing else for them. They leave a facility and they go on and do other things. But we see aquatics as being a lifelong pursuit. You could do it as competitive swim, even as an adult, but it can be part of rehabilitation. It can be part of water therapy. Emergency responders need to be practicing in water. So there's this huge adult component that can utilize this space too. And Matt, I mean, you know as well as anyone, there's no amount of water space like we're planning anywhere within, you know, a 2 or 3 hour drive that has the seating capacity that we're proposing to offer. So, you know, for us, it's really important. Those three missions really are driving us forward. And I think when the board thinks about this pool, and we've talked a lot early on about competitive swim, and that was our motivation at the beginning because we had competitive swimmers, we have competitive swimmers, and you know that too, Matt. But really, when you think about it, is we have all this space and a lot of time in the day. How do we utilize that to its fullest advantage? It's community involvement, and that's really become the big push for us. And that was a huge part of our engagement with the Phoenixville Area School District. We're like, every child in Phoenixville Area School District, and many around here, all the other adjoining school districts, they should all have learn to swim programs when they're very young. It's about confidence in the water and about preventing, you know, accidental injury and death.
Yeah, I think a good goal there, or a tagline you want to say, is our goal is to drown-proof Chester County. Mm-hmm. That's written in our mission statements. That's what we want to do. And I can't emphasize enough, like, how much, and everybody even on our board came to this project with this passion for competitive swimming and knowing we need the competition element. But now I think the good outweighs the bad, and not that that's necessarily bad, that it's really, I mean, just imagine this facility, right? I mean, we're going to have kids coming in at a young age, learning how to swim, you know, whatever it is if it's swimming, and then they can sprout off into other sports, which are the 4 I already mentioned they can get involved with. And most importantly, they're not going to drown, but also they're going to be able to continue on with their career. And, you know, and swimming is, in particular, is a very disciplined sport, and it really, you know, drives character and work ethic and all that other good stuff, as well as other athletics. But I think that's where I can't emphasize enough now. Like, we talk about this, and we're talking to people in all our community here, people that have done great things. And, you know, everyone's kind of getting behind this. But just imagine, you know, during the mornings, people practice, and even at night. But also the element that I think we're very passionate about, and really the thing that we're trying to really find is a healthcare partner right now. Because the aquatic element to this is when we have that warm therapy pool, we want to do rehab. I get calls probably 3 to 4 times a month of people saying, hey, I want to refer you to somebody for aquatic therapy. And I'm like, sorry, it's not open yet, you know. And there's a bunch of providers that have referred people to me, and because they call our 1-800 number, you know. So we know that there's a massive need for there. We know that the Pottstown YMCA shut that down. And the people there, as well as with Tower Health, are very interested in this facility being open, as well as the senior citizen community. You know, I had the executive director reach out to me and ask me about the project. And I told her, I said, look, our goal is when the time is dead in that pool from, let's say, 10 o'clock in the morning till like 2, 3 o'clock, we want to ship all the seniors in from, you know, from the nursing homes and the long-term care homes in the area, and have them come there and use it as a social element. Because there's even part of our design, we actually put you know, the bathrooms now currently closer to the warm pool just so they can come. But that's happening, and that we're actually, Philadelphia's behind on this. Like, what we're talking about, we interviewed all these facilities around the country, and everybody has these facilities. The Philadelphia region does not have these, and they say it's a whole community event, and people come from all over the area just to come and socialize, pretty much, right?
That's right.
So, but yeah. So anyway, that's kind of, you know, you envision the swimming, the competition, but really it's not going to be that. It's just like the ice hockey rings that they built. They run from 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock at night, or into the next morning, because they just need that ice, you know. And that's what exactly this is going to serve for the purpose, I hope, as well. But we're definitely, especially talking to the community people we've talked to, I got to say it's really way more about that than the good outcome is going to be the competition on the back end, right? I mean, you say that's true.
Yeah, no question about it. And like Matt, you mentioned, you know, Pennsylvania is a fast state for swimming, and it's the 3rd fastest state, we think, behind was it California and Texas.
Yes.
And so that means that we have kids here that are doing that in subpar, old, outdated, antiquated facilities. So why not get them the facility they need to kind of go to that next level, to reach for a college scholarship, or just to actually just really enjoy the sport in a space that they deserve. It's a very highly subscribed sport. And so, yes, that's a great outgrowth. But then there's this threefold mission, which kind of like surrounds that and wraps that up. And that to us is a really driving force for this board and for the project.
Well, one of the things I just, when you said about the ice hockey rinks, and I know we train a couple ice hockey players, and I talked to a lot of the parents who have ice hockey kids. They got to talk about not having facilities. I mean, that is one of the sports that is, and in the Northeast, you would think there'd be more, but I mean, it's just, we're lucky enough that at least Westchester and Oaks exist, but there's not a lot of ice time. There's kids that are playing hockey games at 11 p.m. Yeah. And, that's on a school night. And that's just because there's just not enough ice to go around. And I think creating the environment on the swimming level where that water time exists and there's enough water to go around for enough programming to be complete is important. And then, I know early on when the idea was broached and we were talking about different things that could be in this facility, did you guys, and I never asked this, did you guys finalize having a strength and conditioning component inside of there, or no? How did that end up with the plan?
The university is still interested in some type of fitness center being part of that. I'll answer that. But also, we talked to one of the gentlemen on our advisory board is Brendan Hansen, who's a multi-gold medalist, world record holder, and 100, 200 breaths over time. He ran a facility just like this, and he's from Haverford. He held the state record for 100 breaths for many years. I mean, he swam for Suburban, great guy. Got to talk to him a lot. The other element is the facility that he ran down there in Austin, Texas. There's a huge triathlete community here in Philadelphia. And he literally, a lot of his programming and funding that he got was having spinning classes. And he was like, hey, do you guys have any trails around there? I'm like, there's a trail system that goes all around this whole property because it used to be an old golf course. And I go, beyond that, we have the best road bike in the country because I'm a road bike cyclist, and a mountain biker here in the area. And, it's really, so for the triathlete community, we actually, again, look at our website, you'll see Gina Cataldi, who's a kind of renowned multi-sponsored triathlete that lives right here in Phoenixville. And she's trying to give us some advice as well and be part of our advisory board. With that, we also had a few organizations, including NovaCare, that reached out to us that was interested in building some type of element into our facility. So to answer your question, absolutely, it's very important, especially with the water therapy as well as the dry land therapy.
I just think, obviously we all have our kids doing additional things outside of just swimming in the pool, and having, a program, because that's one of the things that I think was missing from the Y swim programs was, the dry land was woefully inadequate, to say the least. And, part of Max Out, that kind of helped me, the fact that they sucked at their job. But having a place that puts a comprehensive training program in for kids that is one-stop shop. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to travel. Mom and dad don't have to take their kids to 10 different places to accomplish the goal of having a healthy, well-rounded, strong, safe kid who understands nutrition and things like that. So I think, part of on the athletic side is having a place, and when you're building a $10 million facility or whatever it ends up being, having the ability to go from scratch and build that out, I think it's just going to change the landscape of how things are done in the pool. When you can have a rehab center, you can have, chiropractic care, there's so many options you can throw inside there that, if you look at the Spring Valley YMCA has Mishak in there doing physical therapy. I mean, that's brilliant to have a guy right there that is, people twist their ankle running on the track. You go to John Mishak. The dude's brilliant for having that. So I think that's just a great business model to have as many answers to problems in one facility as you can possibly have.
Right. We agree, Matt. We think that building a facility of this size, taking kids from the learning how to swim to the highly competitive side, we should be able to wrap all of that in. I mean, we have a tremendous amount of space with about 75,000 square feet under one roof. There's no reason not to have that. And so the point is well taken. And we also believe, too, when you build a facility of this size, and we have examples from other places around the country that have done this, you're attracting some high quality coaching talent and people that really understand not just the sport of swimming, but the idea of how we build the athlete, about the dry land training, about the weight land training, about the weight training, about the nutrition aspect. So just what you mentioned. And so we're bringing in people, I think, that would come here for the facility and the notoriety they would bring, but we'd have some people that really are very knowledgeable and elite in their field of coaching to help us do that as well.
And you think about all the private schools that are nearby, the Episcopals, the Malvern Preps, the Germantown Academies, granted they have their own facilities, but their facilities are not going to be this.
No. And
I would have an opportunity to offer that to them.
And as well, they're trying to run club programs out of those facilities as well. And so all these programs are compromised for space. You mentioned Tops having to share facilities at the Hill School and the Perkiomen School. All these high schools are still bursting at the seams with more people that want to be in that water than they can accommodate in a small 6-lane pool between after school and 9 p.m. So you're right. We feel like that we can help them. And then when you add the long course component, because those kids leave that high school season or that winter season and they want to get better long course training in the summer, there's really no place adequate to do that. And some really good swimmers just leave the area. Frankly, they just move out and they go find it in other parts of the country. Why not have it in our own backyard? And then you can host competition as well. And so we know long course competition in the summer is huge. And that's a huge attraction. And that, I think, kind of maybe helps us segue into more of the community aspect, Matt, and kind of talking about how Phoenixville is buying into this as they find out more about it, and our engagement with local people in the Phoenixville area who may not know a lot about competitive swim, may know nothing about competitive swim, but they see this as an economic boon for the area. A facility that's going to bring in, 500 people a day to train there. We might have competitions on weekends, and they're getting behind it for the what good it brings for the community. To have a facility like this, bringing people in, not just locally, but from other parts of the, say the East Coast, for example, for a major competition.
And you think about you mentioned the economic side, having a tax base that will have an impact, having jobs being created, summer jobs for kids, teaching lessons. Andrew works at the swim school next door to Max Out that has, basically your backyard pool where they're giving lessons for $99 a month for half an hour to swim in what is a mediocre sized backyard pool, and he's a lifeguard. There's just so many opportunities that are going to be for kids that are interested in being around water to have an opportunity to become independent financially, to be able to have a job and learn a skill and help other kids become proficient in swimming and do lifeguarding and CPR training and first aid training and all those things that come with kids that want to grow up around the water and become more aware of all the different things that can happen.
Sure. Yeah. Matt, you've mentioned, and we've talked a bit today already about the YMCA. That keeps coming up as a theme. We've actually engaged with the YMCA.
Yeah. We actually, Eric Doherty, who's on our board currently, he was the CFO at the Greater Philadelphia YMCA. He was part of the Freedom Valley YMCA here as well. He's retired, but he's the president of the school board, and he set up a meeting with Sean Elliott, the current president, CEO of the YMCA. And we had a great conversation. We really are interested in partnering with the YMCA and figuring out ways that we can work together and sharing, swim lessons to pool time for the whole 9 yards, really. So we're actually waiting to hear back to have a second follow-up meeting with him and his leadership team. We're really excited about that as well.
I really hope that comes. I mean, I have some animosity for what happened with the Pottstown Y, but I do believe that at its core, if the essence of what the YMCA meant, and I was a YMCA kid growing up, never swam, but it was a place outside of the Pottstown Ricketts Center that every kid in Pottstown hung out at, either the YMCA or the Ricketts Center. Mm-hmm. And so it was a place where kids could go. And I think the YMCA can maintain some semblance of that. And I think the swim programs kind of keeps it grounded because it's a place where kids matriculate from the lessons to the swim team, to the pre-team, to the swim team. And that's how it all started with every one of our kids, I would venture to bet. And I think it's important. And, the trend I was seeing was they were getting away from that. And I just hope that if they get away from it from their own Locations, fine, just as long, but if the YMCA still supports swimming on some level, that'd be fantastic. And I think it would make a lot of families happy if that were the case.
Yeah, we'd like to think that we really have a collaborative engagement with them and supporting them with more access to water. And maybe through that, Matt, they can kind of stick to their core mission. And that's what you mentioned, which is when you were growing up in Pottstown, how important that was for you and so many other kids to have a facility to go to, whether you were involved in a swimming program or not. And so we'd like to think that the Y can kind of go back to or re-engage with that core mission, and we can have a collaborative program with them, through our facility. And I think that we're hopeful that might happen.
I agree.
So what's the timeline we're looking at, fellas? What do you think it's going to be before we start to see action as far as going out and doing major fundraising and trying to break some ground?
Well, we have a director of development currently, Jeff Meyer, who joined us. Again, he has a swimming background. He's actually a master swimmer, a very successful master swimmer.
Nationally ranked.
Yes, at his age. Great guy. Daughter swam for USC. She swam for GA before that. He's actually kind of what we would call now, we're in our quiet phase as far as going out and, talking to people about our project, making sure we connect the right dots within the community. But to answer your question, we have up to 5 years to kind of get this accomplished, and also with some extensions put into our agreement with the school district. But I would say 3 to 5 years we would hope to break ground. I think that's and it's still very ambitious because we're trying to raise about $23 million at least to get this facility built and constructed. So. But yeah, 3 to 5 years, we're really hoping, we're going to form some good, strong partnerships in the healthcare community. And, as you know, where we live, we have a lot of large corporations here that could help the cause as well. So we're kind of in those conversations, and we're in that process currently.
That's awesome. I'm proud of you guys. You guys do great work. I know the amount of commitment it takes. I wish I could have joined you on this trek. Unfortunately, I don't have the mental bandwidth to be able to continue adding more to my brain. It's not that big to begin with. But I know with you two being actively involved, and I'm sure the team you put together is fantastic, that I have zero doubt that it's going to get accomplished. What I hope is that everybody who's watching this, we're going to share the crap out of it on social media. That you, if you know somebody that's into swimming, or if you know a company that has, a lot of times it comes down to like a CEO whose kid was a swimmer, and he's just got a soft spot for swimming, or a big company that, like a GlaxoSmithKline or a Pfizer, one of them that wants to step up and have their name somewhere in that building. Everything's, at the end of the day, it's a building, and it wouldn't be the First Union Center or any other name that's been on every sports facility building if they didn't utilize or need that money to make that happen. So this isn't about pride. This is about getting a world-class facility built and doing so in the most efficient, effective way possible. So thank you both for being on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. We appreciate the look and all the efforts.
Hey, Matt, can I say one other thing?
You most certainly can.
Yes, I just want to make sure, like you said, like anybody that's interested in learning more about it, you can contact us on our website. We are actively looking for anybody that would be interested in some committees we're developing currently, and even people that are interested in being on our board that are interested to be engaged in this project. So anybody thinks they have time and bandwidth, we need as much help as we can get. This isn't a small goal. It's a audacious goal, I think is the right way to say it.
Right.
And
we went back to the 80s. I like it.
Yeah. We like the big goal, and it's, it's, people always ask me in the community, how's the pool going? I need people that are going to be asking us, hey, how can I help? What can I do? And we're starting to get some more and more of those, but the wider we get with the network and people that know about that can help us, the more realistic this is going to become. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
And I think when people realize that it's not just a pool for people to compete in, that's going to be a large component of the money-making component for the pool. Swim lessons, swim teams, competitions, meets, national meets, attracting national level swimming from high school to college to TYR to big events, that they're opportunity for big money and even having television coverage and things like that at those types of facilities. So, having traveled around now and we all have to, Indianapolis, to Greensboro, to Dublin, Ohio, or whatever the hell that place is we're going to be going to next year for NCAAs at middle of nowhere, Ohio, that has a beautiful facility, or down in Alabama. There's these amazing facilities that are being utilized and creating economic prosperity for the community they're in, and doing great things for the community by providing rehab services, senior projects, senior programs, youth-based swimming lessons, getting first responders in to do water rescues, life-saving, lifeguarding, whatever you want to. It's so many opportunities that we can create through this endeavor that will help the community, to help people at large, and like you said, help drown out drowning from the area.
Thank you.
Thanks for the visibility, Matt.
Hang tight, guys. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk offline. Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in to this special 2 Dates and a Dash organizational spotlight. My friends Dan Cook and Dave DiArcangelo, thank you very much for being on. I'm going to put a link to the website in the comments, vfswim.org. That's the Valley Forge Swim Aquatic Center, is the official name of it. Please go to the website, check out what they're doing, look at the designs. If you know anybody with big pockets or a lot of time and some intellect and some skills in the fundraising or project development, please reach out to Dan and Dave. All right, guys, thank you very much. God bless, and for God's sakes, be kind to one another.